Hello, welcome to part 2 of making my own DIY Galadriel doll. Let's get started into making her waist belt. Using the help of the internet, I found a close-up little picture of her belt. I'm using this cotton embroidered fabric, segmenting it, cutting it down, ironing it, and now pinning it and top stitching it against the matching fabric from the underside of her dress. As I put those aside, let's get started on some of the ornate details, which is the glass beads, seed beads, and the faceted clear beads I will be attaching to her dress. I did a little detail here on the very top of her sleeve, as well as hand stitching her sleeve a little more open so you can see her hands a little bit better. I will also be using the help of those seed beads once again to hand sew these pearlescent seed beads all the way on the outside of the bell shape of her sleeves on both sides. Now, the belt looks gorgeous the way it is here, but I'll also be adding some of those beads to the belt as well. The belt is made up with this V shape as well as these long tails that hang from the front. I left my tails pretty long because I wanted this more dramatic effect. For the belt, I'll be using these clear seed beads all the way on the very edge of the belt, as well as using a running stitch with the faceted beads as well as the pearlescent beads just in between that beautiful embroidery design this fabric came with. I'll be hand sewing it for all the different pieces of the belt. I think this adds a little more of that luxurious, elegant feel that Galadriel has with all her costumes. And once I like all the beadwork on the belt, I'm just pinning it in place so we can get started on the wig. Now the wig has some less hair parts on the wefting, so it needs to be a little more bulkier, so you would see me using a zigzag stitch here to make it a little bit thicker. Now the wig hair I had planned to attach with this quick hold clear glue. It didn't work the way I wanted to, so I actually switched to hot glue. Using the wefts, I segment them around her ears just so I can show off her ears a little bit better in the final hair styling. I did a couple lines of hair right where the hairline starts all the way around her head, and then you'll see me switch to her hairline down the very middle of her head. Galadriel has this very natural, whimsical look to her where her hair is styled but yet not, so I wanted to hopefully create that look as I'm building the hairstyle here. I did trim some smaller hair wefts to then fill the space between the middle part and the base hairline around her head. Now the hair is fresh on her head and doesn't know where to go, so I decided to finesse the hair where it should be and then use a plastic bag and dunk her head into some hot water so the steam can set her hair where it should fall on her head. Now, to the tribute of all the wonderful hair doll makers out there, I found this really cool trick where people use straws and bobby pins and, again, hot water steam to set these curls, which I will be doing for my doll. She has these really pretty beach waves that I'm hoping to achieve with this look. And I left the hair a little bit long so I'm able to trim it later. I did set the curls on the straws one way and the other depending on where the hair falls on the doll. Once I finished all the different pinning sections to the straws, I will be off camera doing some hot water over those curls to heat set it and then let those air dry before I decide to mess with the hair any further. Using some scrap hair I had left over from when I originally cut up the wig, I decided to make my own wefts, and I'm not using a stitching method. I'm actually using a clear glue method, using that quick hold clear glue I had just been using. And once that fully dries, I'm going to trim it and segment them into smaller little wefts because I have a feeling I'll need them, and I do. I'll be doing the same trick here with some bobby pins and some straws to set the hair in a curl. Now that those are fully dry, I'm going to remove all the bobby pins and gently pull the straw off all the curls. Now, although these curls are gorgeous, they're not quite that beach wave that I was hoping for, so I'm using this very lightweight hair gel to very gently take apart these curls and make them into more simple hair waves. Once I like that curl hair wave look, I decided to set the whole hair with some hairspray and then using some scissors to then style the hair. The hair is a little bit long like I mentioned before, but I wanted to create this V shape that Galadriel tends to have with all her hairstyles. And I left her hair a little bit longer than what you might see in the movies. Now the hairline here is a little sparse, so I decided to use some of those wefts I had made myself to create this V shape in the very front of her head. She has so much hair that it was just falling forward, so I decided to use matching thread and some hand sewing to create this hair twist around her ears to show off her little elf ears a little bit better. There was no way that hair product would have kept this in place any better, and I'll be leaving her hair like this anyways. So once I like the style, I'll be moving on to her circlet. Now, the Galadriel outfit that I was inspired by, she actually doesn't have a circlet, but I really wanted her to have her circlet. It's an iconic thing for her. So I decided to go with this silver and gold circlet that she wears in the movies. And using the help of this floral wire combination of brass and silver, some tools here to shape as best as possible the circlet. There is no rhyme or reason. I'm using the doll, my hands, any tools to just create this V-shaped circlet around her head. I used some glue here to help me center it. And as I'm weaving and twisting here, I decided to also use those seed beads once again to help adorn the circlet even more so to then match the rest of her look. This star shape in the very front of the crown was the highlight of the circlet crown, so I decided to keep it in place by kind of weaving it through with the other pieces. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to move on to her brooch that she has with almost all her looks. I imagine this brooch is like a mother of pearl. I could not find one size appropriate, so I used rhinestones to try to achieve this look as best as possible. So I used the circle rhinestone and these tear-shaped rhinestones with some quick hold glue, super glue. And once they dried, they get frosted, so I did use some resin to freshen up that look. I did make her ring as well with a flower-shaped rhinestone and some teardrop rhinestones. So I'm using a hand sewing needle and some thread to attach the brooch directly to her dress. And I'll be using that UV resin once again to permanently attach that ring to her finger. Now her makeup. A lot of beautiful doll creators out there use an assortment of things, and I tried them all. I used pastels, I used colored pencils, I used brushes and acrylic, and I just did whatever until I liked the way it looked. I was hoping to really achieve this more natural beauty look, and I tried to do this black eyeliner. It was too harsh. I went back in to create this like taupey muted brown eyeliner look with eyelashes instead. This is my first doll make, so I was very nervous, but it was very much a trust the process situation, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Once the makeup was done, I did use that clear spray once again to seal her face. I used that trick of the masking tape over just the glass parts of her eyes so they won't get foggy, and protected her hair. And with that, her look is pretty much done. It's just a matter of assembling. And we'll be attaching the back side of her dress fully closed now. I'll be using a hand sewing needle and matching thread once again to close up the back. And now attach the belt. We're just doing basic necessity sewing here, just to tack everything in place. I don't want to pull too hard, do too much sewing to pull on that more delicate fabric, and I'll be doing a whip stitch all the way around. I'll be doing this whip stitch also on the back side of her dress. And with that, she's completed. Here's Galadriel in her final look, all her details. She looks really stunning. Very happy with the way she turned out. Thanks for going with me on this journey, and I will see you in the next one. Here is her final look.